Welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, the podcast where two guys watch random movies and talk about them. And with me, as always, is the incredible, the amazing, the effervescent, the Dr. Henry Jones to my Indiana Jones, Kyle Mulford. And I am Noah Saturn. How you doing, Kyle?
Oh, we named the dog Indiana. I'm just,
You took your name after the dog.
You're named after a dog? I'm doing good. And today's podcast is brought to you by Bubble Yum, because we're the podcast that you chew for a while and then spit us out when we lose our flavor. I don't know where I'm going with that one.
And we blow big bubbles.
What'd we watch?
This time we watched a movie that you had actually already seen that we mentioned in a previous episode, or previous mini episode. We watched Uncharted, starring Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg.
Indeed, we did, from 2022. Is this the first time we've done a movie from the year that we're recording?
Maybe. I know it is super recent, comparatively speaking.
Which, who knows? As far behind as I have these, like, posting, this might be posted in 2023 anyway, but this is the 2022 film Uncharted, based off of the video game series of the same name, that started in 2007 with the first game, and then the 2016, the fourth game came out. I don't remember all the subtitles for them. Drake's Fortune, Among Thieves, something Dark Side.
Called Thieves End.
So very popular video game series. I have played about 30 minutes of the first game, so I have no affinity for the games going into this movie.
I like the games. I've played bits and pieces of them myself. I remember specifically there was like a demo for the second one at Walmart, and every time I went to Walmart, I would just play that demo over and over again. I got really good at that demo.
You can beat that part of the game. Easy peasy, right? If you bought it.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm pretty sure that through my PS Plus, I think that I got the game, at least the first game, for free, if not a couple of them. So I'm going to have to go try them out sometime. I didn't get into it too much. I think I've heard from people that the first one's good, but they get better as they go along. So one of those. So, but this was directed by Ruben Fleischer, who his other movies include Zombieland 1 and 2, Gangster Squad, and Venom. So
high caliber.
Very high caliber, which is funny because
pedigree.
Zombieland is one of his first movies he did, like feature-length movies, and I enjoyed that one.
Well, Zombieland's great.
Yeah. Venom could have been a lot better. I just don't like what they did with the source material.
So much worse.
It could, but that was the thing I was going to say, is that I still had fun watching Venom. So
as Ruben Fleischer's, I had a good time with Venom.
He's not a bad director. He feels like a director for hire almost. Like he can make a movie for you. And this movie has apparently been in the works from like 2010, when it was going to be. Mark Wahlberg was originally cast, I think, as Nathan Drake. It was going to be directed by David O. Russell, and like Al Pacino was going to play. It was either Robert De Niro or Al Pacino was going to play Wahlberg's father, and then Joe Pesci was going to play his uncle or something. I don't know. Like and directed by David O. Russell. And then it went through like different writers, different directors for like 10 years. And finally it came down to what it is now, which is a 2022 action adventure movie.
So let's give the basic summary, the snowball pitch for you longtime listeners. Modern day Indiana Jones,
basically, with that's a dash of National Treasure in there.
Yes,
I'd say a little bit, but it really is modern day Indiana Jones, which was a modern day movie serial. So, is it the caliber of Indiana Jones? No, because Steven Spielberg is like a master director. But is it bad? No, I think that this is going to be one of those that I'll probably go back to this one. Kind of like the National Treasure movies.
Yeah, so let's dig into this one. So this one, it wakes up, we see Tom Holland playing Nathan Drake, waking up in the middle of just like he's hanging off the side of a plane next to a bunch of like cargo containers. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
how's he going to get out of this one? So he fights some bad guys. He climbs to the top of the plane, and then he gets hit by a car,
And
and
then
then
and
we
then he falls again.
and then flashback.
Yeah, and apparently this is like this is one of the they kind of take bits and pieces from the games, and like there's some story elements from like the fourth game apparently. And one of the things about the games is you start the game, he's in some sort of like peril that you have to get out of. So like they just jump you right in, and I kind of liked about that about the movie is they jump you right into the action, and he's falling out of a plane. Yeah, and then we cut to flashback 15 years earlier. You get Sam and Nathan Drake in an orphanage, and they were caught breaking into some was a museum or something to
Yeah,
get a map to Magellan's lost gold or whatever, and they were going to send his older brother Sam away, and instead he ran away and said, "Hey, I'll come back for you." Then we cut to 15 years later, and he hasn't come back for him.
yep. So then Nate is kind of working as a bartender, but does some like Artful Dodger style thievery on the side. Takes a few things here and there, just enough to get by and have fun.
Yeah, and then we get introduced to his future partner Sully, Victor Sullivan, played by Mark Wahlberg, who kind of pickpockets him because he saw him pickpocketing the girl and was like, "Hey, why don't you come help me find this treasure?" He's like, "No, dude, I don't know you."
And then he's like, "Oh yeah, I worked with your brother."
Yeah, so then Nathan Drake breaks into Sully's apartment just because that's how he does things instead of just knocking. And then this is the start of this whole trepidatious relationship. He worked with Sam, or Sully worked with Sam trying to find Magellan's treasure, and then something happened to Sam and he disappeared, but we don't know what until the end of the movie. And Nathan is just like kind of going along with this because Sully knew Sam, but like he learns soon enough that he can't fully trust Sully.
Yeah, so there's this constant game of kind of one-upmanship that we see from the beginning. So they're always trying to get we get one over on each other just to get that edge because they're partners, but they're not willing partners.
No, and it's some fun, playful banter. I like this stuff, and the first little gig they're going to do is stealing this cross from an auction, where Antonio Banderas, who plays Moncada, the bad guy of the movie, he's trying to win it in an auction because he's filthy rich. He's from a rich family who actually his ancestors are the ones who financed Magellan's trip in the first place. So he thinks he has the right to this cross that's also a key. But when they're getting ready for it, Sully is like, "Okay, Drake, tell me what you need because you're going to be in charge of making the electricity go out." And he goes, "Oh, I need this, and this, and a cat." And it was kind of like the old Guardians of the Galaxy Rocket Raccoon thing. I need this, and I need that guy's leg.
That guy's eye, yeah.
Or that guy's eye, yeah. So I liked that. So then this cat became a running gag in the movie. I actually loved the movie, the line later in the movie. "I don't know what's more adorable, what was it? Seeing you care so much," or something like that, or the fact that you just said the guy from the app.
Yeah, so he does keep the cat, so that's nice.
Mr. Whiskers. So they do this whole routine at the auction, which is a lot of fun because things go wrong, obviously. And then this is where Drake finds out that Sully really can't be trusted because, like, well, when things go wrong, he's like, "Well, hey, I've got the cross. I'm going to get out of here and just leave Drake to his own defenses." And it's like, "Oh, okay, so you'll walk away if things go bad, and just leave your partner hanging." So
yeah, and then another part I like about this is then we get to meet sort of our kind of our big bruiser that keeps coming back as one of the main minions because there's Moncada played by Antonio Banderas, then there's Braddock who's kind of like the head military gal and all of her minions.
Yeah.
And then one of her minions is this big Scottish guy, which just reminded me of, and he had a very thick accent. It reminds me of the old SNL sketch with Mike Myers where he was running like this Scotland-only shop. Where he's like, "If it's not Scottish, it's crap!"
Yeah, his Scottish accent is so great in this. Like when he comes in, is like something just starts rattling off like threats to Tom Holland. And he's like, what was that?
I have no idea what you're saying.
uh, but yeah, so they eventually end up getting the cross, and Sully's like, "Oh, I have the other cross, so we have both of them." And well, then it turns out that they go to. Is that when they go to Barcelona and
Yeah.
they meet Chloe, a third partner, and it turns into even more non-trust and like who's going to backstab who, because now you got three people who do. Well, Tom Holland playing Nathan Drake just kind of is an innocent guy, and I like him because he is trusting, but he learns to be on his guard throughout the film, like to be more on his guard, but he doesn't really lose his core values though. But then Chloe and Sully are both trying to like one up each other also, and don't want the other one to get ahead or to find the treasure first. And so, but I liked the way it was written in the city where they have both the keys, and they have to find, the whole riddle is like one shall go to heaven, one shall go to hell. And it's like, oh, then they end up having to work together, even though, they're leery about working together. And so I kind of liked that it didn't feel forced when they kept staying together.
Yeah, it was kind of a fun puzzle thing. So like, oh, this is definitely feels kind of video gamey with one character controlling the person underground and one person controlling the character above ground, or having to like switch between the two perspectives to work together.
Yeah, but then they finally get to these giant urns, and they think they found the treasure, and they're like, oh shit, no, there's just another map in here. And so that's when you get the big twist, because we spoil in this podcast, and this is a new movie, so if you haven't watched it, go watch it. I'm going to tell you right now, it's worth watching before you listen to all this. That's when Chloe, you find out that she was actually also hired by Moncado at the same time as Braddock was, and she was kind of infiltrating Sully and Drake.
Yep.
And
So he had a woman on the inside. So it's like, yeah, and Moncada says, yeah, if I knew you couldn't do it, Braddock, I know that she could.
And so yeah, then she gets the map and whatever, and that's when we end up in the plane, because they think according to the map, they know the correct location of the place. And they this is where Braddock goes full rogue and like full bad guy, and just walks up to Moncado and just slits his throat in the middle of a meeting on the plane. You're like, oh, okay, so she's just ruthless.
Yeah, more meetings should end like that. It's like that, and like the time in the Phantom where Treat Williams just like threw a spear through a guy at the end of the meeting. Those two
Right.
should work together.
Yeah, so then that actually spooks even Chloe, and she kind of goes and hides. And then we get the whole scene. There's this car that Moncada was bringing along, and Drake and Sully hid in the trunk, and they get out, and they're all in the cargo hold. And finally, they throw the lever to let all the cargo go out with the parachutes, and they're all falling out of the plane. And then we get to where
find out who hit the car, and it turns out Chloe was driving the car out into the just into nowhere off the plane. So then they end up having to work together to try and figure out a way to find a parachute in the skydiving sequence, which I thought was pretty neat.
And then you get the Nolan North cameo when they wash up on shore, and he's like, whoa, what happened to you guys? And they're walking out of the ocean fully clothed, and Tom Holland's like, fell out of a car that fell out of a plane. And then Nolan North is just lounging on the beach. He goes, I had something like that happen to me once. They're like, what? And just walk away. So, you got to get that.
Yep. And Nolan North, of course, is the voice actor who played Nathan Drake in the video games.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of a gratuitous cameo, but you got to give him something in there.
Oh, for
sure. So I thought that was played well.
Yeah, that was funny.
That's the thing about this movie is, we're talking about Ruben Fleischer being kind of just a odd direct, he just directs whatever, and he does an okay job with whatever. But the thing is I don't know who wrote this movie, but I think this was pretty well written for a video game movie.
Mm-hmm. I definitely feel like all the plot progression felt natural, and it felt like a good fall to screenwriting rule of therefore and but.
Yes.
Everything is a consequence of something. So,
well, yeah, because I was going to say, we usually do the Chekhov's gun, or the Chekhov's Chekhov, And I'm sorry, we got Chekhov's gum, we've got Chekhov's lighter, we've got Chekhov's tracking app, we've got um, everything is set up in the beginning in a very natural way that pays off in the end. And that's something like some of these movies that are just like these uh, nowadays movies like this and Lost City feel so generic. This one actually had like when you have they find the ships at the end, like there's a whole thing where three different groups are going to three different places because they all read the map wrong, but Tom Holland figured out where the treasure actually was. And then they all see him there, and then they follow him in, and then they get helicopters and raise out these boats, which they find these ships, One-Eyed Willie style, only there's two ships instead of one.
Mm-hmm. So
But it's Two-Eyed Willie. but but the thing is even at the end when they take these giant helicopters and that's how they get them out of this cave, so they lift them up and out instead of sending them out through the cave. Then Sully ends up flying a helicopter, and in the beginning we know why he can fly a helicopter, and it wasn't forced. It was Tom Holland was actually trepidatious of this character, so he's like, oh, I'm going to look up your background and see, oh, and I see that you were dishonorably discharged from the military. And then he's like, what did you do in the military? Oh, I flew helicopters and blah, blah, blah. But, a lot of places wouldn't take the time to like write in, oh, he only knows this because he was looking at his background to see who this guy really was. And that actually worked with the plot because he really needed to do that.
I didn't catch that at first. So yeah, that's a good point.
So like even him flying the helicopter at the end actually was foreshadowed in a way that was natural. So
yeah, in this helicopter sequence with like these two long ships, old piratey style ships flying with two separate helicopters, and of course, Nate and Sully are on one, so they have to kind of fight their way through it. And then of course Braddock is on the other ones, and they're gonna go back and forth fighting with these giant, and they all, of course, they swing like pendulums with these helicopters. So how are we gonna fight this other one off? And do what anyone would do, and of course, blast a cannon into a helicopter.
Yeah, and as much as this borrows from old action movies like Indiana Jones, all that stuff, I'm going, fighting on two flying pirate ships, that's new to me. I thought that was kind of cool.
That was a fun set piece, and I definitely have not seen that before.
Yeah, so there are things in this that it's not just generic cookie cutter. They put some stuff into this, and like I said, little things pay off, like the bubble yum thing, where that was a thing between him and his brother, and then that gum actually helped him in the auction heist, and then at the end of the movie, he starts trusting Sully a little more, and kind of actually shows his appreciation by doing the thing his brother did and going, hey, here's a piece of bubble yum. And I love Mark Wahlberg's like, this means a lot to me, and then just tosses it out the window. Because I thought that Sully actually had a pretty good arc, because he's just really selfish through the whole movie, but gradually he starts showing an affection towards this kid who was his ex-partner's little brother, and starts actually growing a little bit of a heart. But then that little bit at the end where he throws the gum out the window shows, no, I'm still Sully, but I am changing though. So
yeah, I'm changing, but I'm not going to be happy about it, because his big moment is, of course, when he's flying the helicopter and then he has to choose between his backpack of gold or saving Nate. He's like, fine. And then he throws the gold at Braddock. Braddock grabs the gold, falls in the water, and then he saves Nate.
And that shows character growth, because that's a reflection of, you find out that he actually walked away, and you think, and he thinks he let Sam Drake die because he needed to get out because he didn't want to get shot too. So he just left him there to die. Well, you find out in the end credit sequence that Sam Drake is still alive.
For the sequel that we're definitely going to get.
Yeah, but I read somewhere that Mark Wahlberg was only signed on to one, which I hope he signs on for another, because I'm going to say I want a sequel to this.
I'd watch it. I'm not sure this movie did well enough to get a sequel, but I'd watch it.
Yeah, so I think we talked enough about the movie itself. Like I said, good. I thought Sully had some character development. All of them did have a little character development, and they had their own personalities, and there was a lot of Chekhov's items. Things were foreshadowed well, naturally. The story progressed naturally, like you said. And so let's go into whether you'd recommend this or not.
Yeah, I'd recommend this. I think I'm glad that I was able to watch it on Netflix. I don't think I would necessarily pay for it. Like I wouldn't have seen this in the theater, but as a movie you watch on Netflix when you've got nothing better to do, I think it's great.
All right, I'm gonna go one higher, and on my scale that I've kind of developed over the last few episodes. I'm gonna go with a if it wasn't streaming, I'd recommend paying the $4 for a rental. I really had a good time watching this, and this was my second time watching it because I had already seen this before, and I enjoyed it again. And I would recommend don't go out and I wouldn't pay full price at theater. I would like the $20 at the theater, whatever you're going to pay. I don't necessarily say buy it even, but I'd spend the $4 to rent this one.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid assessment.
Yeah, and I'd that leads into what's funny is this is one of those movies that's very a huge discrepancy on Rotten Tomatoes too. It's a 41% with the critics and 90% with the general audience. That sounds about right. But that leads us into our next section of what would you recommend as a double feature, since we both one other thing I did note was this is the first feature production of Sony's PlayStation Productions.
Yeah, so, I saw that as well.
And their next production is going to be the Last of Us feature.
Another game made by Naughty Dog. So does that mean we'll get a Crash Bandicoot game?
Maybe. Apparently, there was a treasure in one of the last things Tom Holland pulls out of his pocket was something from Crash Bandicoot that actually shows up in all of the Drake games or the Uncharted games.
That's funny.
So, and apparently there was in a suitcase or something, there was a Naughty Dog logo somewhere.
I think I noticed that.
But that actually brings me to, speaking of this being a video game movie, we always have, I mean, video game movies are known for being shitty. This is one of those I'd rank up there as one of the better video game movies.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty solid.
So, but that leads us to, what would you recommend as a double feature?
I guess I'd go less with the obvious and stick with video game movies. This is better than what I'm going to recommend, but I still had a good time with the other one. I'm going to recommend Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Not a great movie, but I still had a good time with it, and it has Alfred Molina kissing ostrich.
Awesome. Does that rank right up there with Arnold Schwarzenegger punching a camel?
I think so.
I am going to go obvious just because these movies are, and obviously I rated this a little higher than you. These movies are my kind of movies. I love the National Treasure-esque movies, and so I'm actually going to recommend National Treasure with this. Watch them back to back, and then watch National Treasure 2: Book of Secrets. You can't go wrong with these movies. They're just so much fun. So that's my recommendation. National Treasure 1 and 2. They're on Disney Plus. So does that bring us to what we're watching next?
I think so. So now we got to bring up the old wheel and spin it.
All right. Any genres or all genres?
Let's go all genres.
All right. 70 or better, and we're going to spin. Okay. This one we have, this is a long synopsis. What? In the lonely American Southwest, life is slow for the desert inhabitants of Coyote County. Although it reflects the diversity and pride of the Coyote County residents, local talk radio station K-Rap struggles financially, withering like a tumbleweed on its way to oblivion. Meanwhile, a rising radio personality from Los Angeles reluctantly drives through the hot desert towards Coyote County. His name is Jack Proctor. Upon visiting K-Rap, Jack meets the motley crew that works to keep the place running. These odd but charming individuals are a snapshot representation of the population living in this desert region. Jack meets Mr. Sanchez, the maintenance engineer and host of a Fix-It show. Raymond, the former military accountant and host of an alien and paranormal phenomena talk show. Doyle, the sound engineer and host of Technology Geek show. Mrs. Hops. Wow, this synopsis is so long it just stopped.
Nice.
So, do you know what this is called?
Also, I assume it would have stopped, but of course, with the Dr. Fraser Crane hosting the psychology and the self-help talk show as well.
Yes, I'm sure that's where it was going.
Uh,
This is Coyote County Loser from 2009.
I gotta
It
say,
is.
I've never heard of this.
I have never heard of it either. It's an hour and 32 minutes, so that's always promising for something we never heard of. I don't know any of these actors in this. It is on Tubi for free and Freevee for free, which Freevee is the old IMDb TV, so you can watch it through Prime. Yeah, so Coyote County Loser from 2009 is our next movie.
Okay, that's definitely sounds like a movie.
It does sound like a movie. This will be interesting. But in the meantime, you can find us online. I'm on Twitter at AwesomeKM.
And I am also on Twitter at Noah_Saturn. That is spelled Satern.
And we're on Instagram at we don't know what to watch. And you can email us, we don't know what to watch at gmail.com. Send us emails. We'll read them. Comment, like, subscribe. Let us know what you think of the show. What have you been watching? How'd you like Uncharted? Anyway, till next time, keep looking for that lost treasure.
Yeah, until next time, watch out for those waters. They're uncharted.